Mateo, how
Hey
you
Michael,
doing?
nice to see you.
Come on in.
So you were an early adopter of the internet as a business platform.
Yep.
What potential did you see in the internet that you chose to focus on that?
Well, at the time, I thought I wanted to be an international trade negotiator, so being introduced to the internet was completely new to me. And I was introduced to the internet by one of my early business mentors. He's still my business mentor, back in 1994, I think it was. And it immediately struck me that the possibility to reach millions of consumers with virtually zero marginal cost of delivery by producing material on the internet was going to change the way that businesses interacted with their consumers, interacted with their audience. And that kind of blew me away. So to begin with, I wasn't thinking so much about the transactional side of the internet, but in 1994 and 95, the idea of getting your product and your business in front of millions of people at extraordinarily low cost was kind of a groundbreaking idea, and that for me the light bulb went on, and I've kind of been, I've been plugged in ever since.
You have produced business strategies for top 200 companies and state-owned businesses alike. Can you tell me about some of your past successes before Eventfinda?
So I saw on the internet the potential to reach huge numbers of consumers, millions of consumers at virtually zero marginal cost of delivery of information. So it was the ability to reach a mass audience very cheaply that I twigged onto sort of in 1994-95.
Now, what is it that separates Eventfinda from other ticketing sites or platforms that promote events to customers' reviews?
Okay, so what Eventfinda does is we solve two very specific problems. The first for consumers who find it very difficult to find out what's on because event information is fragmented. And the second is we solve problems for promoters who want to get their event noticed. Now, the way that we solve the problem for consumers is that we aggregate all the event information, not just the events that we're ticketing, but all event information from across the whole country, whether it be theatre, sports, concerts, right down to your local gigs, in one highly searchable destination website. So we make event discovery really easy for consumers. So that's the first one. The second thing is that we engage with the events industry, with the promoters, the venues and the artists who own those events, and give them a platform that they can list their event for free, so there's no barrier to entry whatsoever. They can market their event to our audience, and if they choose to, they can use our ticketing tools to ticket their events. So the difference between us and ticketing companies like Ticketmaster, for example, if you go to Ticketmaster, they only have events that Ticketmaster sells tickets to. So as a discovery tool, it's not that useful. What it is, it's purely a transactional tool. So we treat ticketing like a feature, not like a business. So ticketing is something that is an add-on, but the number one thing that we give to the events industry is a platform that allows them to list their event for free on Eventfinda and get access to that massive aggregated long-tail audience that we provide.
You have a proven track record as an entrepreneur. Can we talk a little about that?
Right, so prior to founding Eventfinda, I had a business called Rock Solid Consulting that provided strategy consulting services to a small portfolio of billion-dollar clients. Okay, so now that we're done here, why don't I take you guys for a tour downstairs to Startup HQ and show you where the action happens.
Okay, cool.
Welcome to Startup HQ.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, Michael, what are some of the new startups you see coming out of New Zealand that you think are exciting or interesting?
Okay, well, there's a couple straight off the bat that are truly extraordinary. The first one is Xero, which is cloud-based accounting software, where an entrepreneur called Rod Drury was kind of a hero to the rest of the security startups, took the company public very quickly and built it up to a market cap of over $800 million. So that's extraordinary, coming out of New Zealand in a very short space of time. The other one is actually Vend HQ. Vend is online cloud-based point of sale system. So it's out to replace the normal cash register using HTML5 and cloud-based systems rather than everything being plugged into traditional point of sale. So that's really exciting. I think that company's going to take off.
Impressive.
It is seriously impressive. I thought he'd finished doing it. So you're going to have to edit it down. All right. Well, time for anything else. This is Startup HQ was actually started by a New Zealander called Stephen Ware and his business partner Badia House. So it's not Startup HQ. This is the key landing pad. The whole building is actually started by HQ as well.
Oh, wow. That is impressive.
It is. It's great for the outfit. It's a fantastic space. So why don't we take a seat and we can continue talking. So what is it that you'd like to know about New Zealand, Mateo?
Well, what is it that you think that the rest of the world should know about the New Zealand tech scene?
Okay. I think there's a lot of things that have been said about the New Zealand tech scene that talk about the technology that comes out of New Zealand. But one of the things that I think isn't recognised is the fact that it's extraordinarily competitive. So we're competitive as people. We're extremely competitive by nature. It's a very competitive market. So even though there's only 4.4 million people here, it has all the same multinationals operating in it that we do here in the US. Plus, it's so important to become number one in a market that there's no room for number two. So it is brutally competitive. And one of the things that I hear a great deal when I'm here in the States in the last 6 months since I've been living here is that this market is different because it's more competitive. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that maybe in a place like New Zealand, it can be more intensely competitive because there's no room for number two. It's large enough to be commercially viable, but small enough to be dominated by a single player. So I think the thing about the New Zealand tech scene that doesn't really get the airplay, doesn't get said, is the competitive nature of the startups that come over here. We're lean, mean, we're armed to the teeth, and we're not going home without a win.
What is the entrepreneurship or startup culture like in New Zealand versus here in the San Francisco Bay Area?
Well, I mean, the culture is completely different when it comes to, I think, positivity. So one of the things that I think New Zealand can be a little bit pessimistic about is working out ways how things can fail. Whereas the first thing that people here in San Francisco or the Valley say when they ask you about your startup and you tell them is, wow, that's amazing. How can I help you? So I think that the attitude here is more positive and it's infectious. I've lived overseas before and worked in other industries, and one of the things that I didn't really do was socialise with other Kiwis as much. But in the tech scene here in San Francisco specifically, we all know each other. And in fact, on Saturday night we had a barbecue at a friend's house celebrating Australia Day. So the Australians and New Zealanders get on really well, especially when we're overseas. Not so much when we're playing rugby against each other, especially when we're overseas. So we're more, I think that the tech scene is more tight-knit than other industries, for example.
Okay, so what are you looking forward to most about New Zealand-American relationships in the near future?
I think, well, one of the biggest things that can help New Zealanders, especially people involved in the tech scene, is if we get closer to an agreement on immigration visas for technology entrepreneurs being able to come to the US, set up shop and break their business into the US market. That, without a shadow of a doubt, would probably mean more to the New Zealand tech scene than anything else. And the other one, big one, of course, is that later this year, we've got the America's Cup being held here in San Francisco. And one of the things that we're really looking forward to is opening up a big can of whoop-ass on the rest of the world and beating the United States at sailing and a cup named after your own country.
Well, it's been really great interviewing you, Michael. I've enjoyed meeting you, and I hope to see you again real soon. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Anytime. Pleased to meet you too.